When love turns to ruins, the only question left is, who will rise from the wreckage and who will be lost forever? Amid the gleam of crystal chandeliers, the intoxicating hum of the orchestra, and the golden shimmer of champagne, the night promised perfection. But beneath the glamour lurked a storm, betrayal, reckoning, and the inevitable collapse. Victoria twirled in another man's arms, unaware that in the shadows her husband watched, not with pleading eyes, but with cold determination. Tonight, everything would change. Tonight, Victoria would no longer call the shots. Tyler had waited long enough. He would not endure, he would not forgive, he would not break. The only question left, when love turns to war, who will emerge victorious? Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Now, let's get started. The grand ballroom buzzed with excitement, an intoxicating blend of music, conversation, and laughter filling the air. The orchestra played a lively tune, its melodies weaving through the crowd, while the warm glow of the chandeliers bathed the room in golden light. Victoria held her champagne flute delicately, absent-mindedly swirling the effervescent liquid as she stood in the center of the glamour, her crimson gown hugging her frame with effortless elegance. Her radiant presence commanded attention, and among the many admirers, Daniel's gaze lingered the longest. "You look absolutely breathtaking tonight, Victoria," Daniel murmured, his eyes sweeping over her with unmistakable admiration. She chuckled softly, tilting her head in amusement. "That's kind of you, Daniel. I must say, you've cleaned up quite well yourself." There was something about him, his effortless confidence, the ease with which he carried himself, that stirred emotions in her, emotions she hadn't felt in her marriage for some time. Across the room, Tyler, her husband, observed her closely, his expression unreadable, but his clenched jaw betraying the storm within him. He had noticed the signs, the late-night outings, the whispered conversations, the growing chasm between them. And now, watching her with Daniel, his worst fears were no longer just suspicions. Tyler sipped his drink slowly, his grip tightening around the glass as he saw her laugh, her fingers grazing Daniel's arm with a casual intimacy. The sight twisted in his gut like a knife. He had confronted her before, voiced his concerns, only for her to dismiss them as paranoia. But tonight, there was no mistaking it. She wasn't hiding anymore. Daniel's voice was smooth, his confidence unwavering. "Care for a dance?" Victoria met his gaze, eyes gleaming. "I'd love to." As they moved toward the dance floor, Tyler felt his pulse quicken. The quiet humiliation, the slow erosion of his trust, he had endured it long enough. Steeling himself, he strode forward, determination sharpening his features. "Mind if I cut in?" His tone was even, but there was no mistaking the tension that gripped him. Victoria barely spared him a glance. "Tyler, can't you see I'm in the middle of something?" The indifference in her voice cut deep. Tyler ignored the sting and turned to Daniel. "I think it's best if you find another partner." Daniel raised his hands in a casual gesture of surrender. "Hey, no problem. She's all yours." As Daniel stepped away, Tyler faced his wife, his voice quiet but firm. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" Victoria let out a soft, humorless laugh. "Relax, Tyler. It was just a dance." His eyes darkened. "Don't insult me. You've been throwing yourself at him all night." She sighed, exasperation flickering across her face. "You're being dramatic." His jaw tightened. "Am I? Do you think I haven't noticed? The late nights, the secret calls? Do you really believe I'm blind to what's happening?" She crossed her arms, her expression unreadable. "Tyler, I am not your property. You don't get to monitor my every move." His chest tightened. "So as long as I don't catch you outright, it doesn't count?" She shrugged, unconcerned. "I'm just having fun. You're making something out of nothing." Tyler exhaled sharply, stepping back as the weight of her words settled over him. "If this is your definition of fun, then maybe we need to reconsider our marriage." Victoria's gaze drifted away, her voice eerily calm. "Maybe we do." A heavy silence stretched between them before Tyler turned on his heel, pushing through the crowd as a realization settled in his mind. He couldn't keep pretending. He wouldn't let this spiral any further. He needed a plan. Victoria's laughter rang out behind him, sharp and biting, a cruel reminder of how far apart they had drifted. Finding a secluded alcove, Tyler pulled out his phone, his fingers hovering over the screen before scrolling through his contacts. His eyes landed on the name he sought. Taking a deep breath, he pressed the call button. A voice answered on the other end. "Hello?" Tyler's grip tightened around the device. "It's me. I need your help." Meanwhile, Victoria had returned to Daniel, a sense of triumph washing over her. She had pushed Tyler further away, reaffirming her independence, embracing the thrill of the moment. Accepting another glass of champagne, she offered Daniel a smile. "Everything all right?" he asked, a note of curiosity in his voice. She took a measured sip, unbothered. "Tyler just needed a little perspective, that's all." Daniel nodded, handing her another drink. "Glad to hear it. I was hoping you'd come back to me." She leaned in, their conversation growing more intimate as the night stretched on. Across the ballroom, in the solitude of a dimly lit room, Tyler sat with a trusted confidant, laying out his plan. Every detail was methodical, every step calculated. He would gather the proof he needed, confront Victoria with the truth, and reclaim his dignity once and for all. "You're sure about this?" his friend asked, concern lacing his voice. Tyler's eyes burned with resolve. "I can't let this continue. I won't be made a fool of any longer." His friend studied him for a moment before nodding. "All right. What do you need from me?" Tyler exhaled slowly before detailing his strategy. There would be no more doubt, no more room for Victoria to brush this aside. The time for naivety had passed. Tonight marked the beginning of something new, the moment he took back control. He had always known this moment would come, yet that didn't make facing it any easier. As the gala wound down, Victoria found herself caught between the lingering thrill of the evening and the creeping weight of exhaustion. The night had been electrifying, especially the stolen moments with Daniel. His attention, his effortless charm, the rush of something new and forbidden had drawn her in completely. But as she sat in the car beside Tyler on the way home, an unshakable guilt began to settle in, its grip tightening with each mile they passed. Tyler kept his eyes fixed on the road, his knuckles white from the way he clutched the steering wheel. The silence between them was deafening, thick with tension. Victoria risked a glance at him, reading every unspoken thought in the rigid set of his shoulders. "Tyler, is it really this bad?" she asked, her voice gentler now, a stark contrast to the excitement she had felt earlier. He drew in a slow breath, the weight of unspoken words pressing down on him. For a second, she thought he might respond, but he only exhaled, steadying himself. "We need to talk, Victoria." "Not tonight," she answered quickly, unwilling to dissect the night's events just yet. Tyler gave a slow nod, his expression unreadable as he kept his focus on the road ahead. "Tomorrow, then." The silence stretched between them as they pulled into the driveway, the unspoken words hanging in the air like a storm waiting to break. Long after Victoria had succumbed to sleep, Tyler remained awake, staring at the ceiling, his mind a whirlwind of betrayal and determination. The events of the night had crystallized something inside him, something that had been simmering for weeks. He could no longer ignore the late nights, the subtle shifts, the undeniable signs. The gala had only confirmed what he had tried so hard to deny. Tomorrow, everything would change, and this time, he would be the one to decide how. By morning, the golden light seeped through the curtains, illuminating the room as Victoria stirred awake. A dull throbbing pulsed behind her eyes, remnants of the previous night's indulgence. She blinked against the brightness, struggling to piece together scattered memories. But as clarity returned, so did a sense of unease. She instinctively reached out for Tyler, but his side of the bed was empty, the sheets cool beneath her fingertips. A flicker of uneasiness ran through her. Sitting up, she pressed her fingers to her temples, willing the headache away. She stumbled to the bathroom, splashing cold water on her face, as if it could wash away the growing anxiety tightening in her chest. As she stepped back into the bedroom, something caught her eye. A suitcase, sitting neatly by the door. Her breath hitched. Slowly, she approached, her pulse pounding. Then, on the bed, she spotted a folded piece of paper. The handwriting was unmistakable. "Victoria, you have until midnight to leave town. Tyler." The words landed like a physical blow. Cher read them, her fingers clenching around the note. Panic surged through her veins. What had happened last night? What had she done to push him this far? Victoria sank onto the bed, the weight of realization crashing down on her. She had convinced herself that she could balance it all, her marriage, her desires, the thrill of something new, without consequences. She had believed Tyler would always remain the steady, patient one, that she could keep him at arm's length while indulging in her own recklessness. But now, the balance had shifted. This wasn't just a reaction, it was a final decision, a boundary drawn with no room for negotiation. And for the first time, she wasn't the one setting the rules. Her pulse thundered as she pushed herself off the bed, stumbling back to the bathroom to splash more water on her face, desperate for clarity. But the walls of their home, once familiar, once safe, now felt suffocating. How had it come to this? She had spent so long chasing the excitement, convincing herself she could have it all. But in a single night, it had all crumbled around her. A buzz from the nightstand pulled her from her spiraling thoughts. Her phone screen lit up with a message from Daniel. "Can you meet today? We need to talk." Victoria stared at the words, her mind spinning. Daniel had been her escape, the rush she had craved. He had made her feel wanted, understood, alive. But now, standing in the wreckage of her marriage, she felt something else entirely: powerlessness. Tyler's message had been clear. She had until midnight. But what did that truly mean? What would happen if she stayed? What exactly was he prepared to do if she defied him? Panic clawed at her throat as she weighed her choices. Leaving meant walking away from everything they had built, admitting that she had gone too far. But staying meant facing whatever came next, whatever line Tyler had drawn in the sand. In the kitchen, Tyler sat at the table, his coffee untouched, growing cold. The apartment felt different now, heavier with the weight of what had been set in motion. There was no more hesitation in him, no more waiting. Victoria had played her games long enough. Now, it was his turn to decide how this ended. She had shattered their marriage, dismantled the promises they had once sworn to uphold, and annihilated the foundation of trust that had held them together. Her betrayal was an unforgivable wound, one Tyler could neither dismiss nor recover from. For years, he had endured Victoria's excuses, convincing himself that their relationship could be salvaged. He had believed her when she said she needed time, when she blamed her exhaustion for the widening gap between them. He had ignored the suspicious late nights, the flirtatious glances, even the outrageous suggestion of opening their marriage to others. But discovering her affair with her manager, the undeniable proof of her emotional infidelity, was the final, unyielding blow. He could no longer deceive himself. Their marriage had become nothing more than a carefully constructed illusion. As he rose from his seat, only one thought consumed him: justice. Victoria had to face the consequences of her actions to truly comprehend the devastation she had brought into their lives. He refused to let her walk away without acknowledging the destruction she had left in her wake. A part of him wrestled with the morality of what he was about to do, but another part reveled in the idea of making her feel the pain he had suffered in silence. He had played the role of the victim long enough. It was time for her to experience what it meant to be powerless. That afternoon, Victoria paced their apartment, torn between reaching out to Daniel or confronting Tyler directly. Everything had spiraled out of her control, leaving her stranded in a storm of doubt and regret. She longed for clarity, for some sense of direction, but deep down, she knew the truth. There was no saving what she had already burned to the ground. The damage was irreparable. As the hours passed, she contemplated escape. But where could she go? The city no longer felt like an option. The fallout of her choices had left her isolated, without a single person she could truly rely on. Those she had once trusted had either turned their backs on her or played a hand in the chaos. So consumed had she been by her own desires that she had failed to see the destruction trailing behind her. Then, her phone buzzed. Tyler's name flashed across the screen. "Victoria, we need to talk. Meet me at the park in an hour. Come alone." Her stomach clenched as she read the message. The moment had arrived. Tyler was ready to confront her, and she wasn't sure she had the strength to face whatever was coming. Tyler stood beneath the towering trees, arms crossed, his face unreadable. His heart pounded, but his mind remained steady, sharp. He knew what had to happen. Victoria needed to face the weight of her decisions, to grasp just how much she had dismantled, and she had no idea the extent to which he was willing to go to ensure she understood. She approached cautiously, her gaze dropping to the ground as though searching for the right words. Tyler could see the calculations behind her eyes, the subtle attempts to frame the conversation in her favor. But not this time. Never again. "Victoria," he said, his tone measured, unwavering. "I've had a long time to think, about everything, about what you did, how you treated me, and I've made my decision." She lifted her head, her face pale, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. "Tyler, please. I never wanted—" He silenced her with a sharp shake of his head. "No. Maybe you didn't mean for it to happen, but it did." A shadow of fear crossed her features. "What are you saying?" He took a step forward, his voice steady. "You destroyed us, Victoria. You lied to me, twisted my trust, pushed me into something I never wanted. You made a fool of me in ways I can't even put into words." Tears welled in her eyes as she parted her lips to speak, but he raised a hand, stopping her cold. "No, not this time. You don't get to talk your way out of this. I was patient. I tried to mend what was broken. But we're past that now." Victoria inhaled sharply, her breath unsteady. She had expected anger, hurt, maybe even a plea for reconciliation. But what she saw in Tyler's expression was something else entirely, an icy, unshakable resolve that sent a chill down her spine. "I'm done making things easier for you," Tyler continued. "I refuse to be the one who keeps suffering. Now it's your turn. You're going to feel every ounce of pain you inflicted, the loneliness, the emptiness, the betrayal." Victoria recoiled slightly, shaking her head. "Tyler, don't do this. I know I messed up, but I want to fix it." A bitter laugh escaped him. "Fix it? After everything you've done?" He exhaled, letting the weight of his words sink in. "No, Victoria. Some things can't be undone." She stood frozen, the color draining from her face. The reality of the situation was finally settling in. This was it. There was no salvaging the wreckage of what had been lost. Tyler's voice dropped lower, every word laced with quiet finality. "You're going to remember this. Every regret, every moment of guilt. You'll carry it with you." Without another word, he turned and walked away, leaving Victoria motionless in the park. The life she had constructed was collapsing before her eyes, each illusion crumbling into dust. And for the first time, she truly understood. Tyler was no longer someone she could manipulate. He never looked back as he disappeared into the distance, her broken pleas fading behind him. Tyler had reached his breaking point. Victoria had crossed too many lines, and now she would have to reckon with the aftermath. He had spent years trying to preserve their marriage while she steadily dismantled it piece by piece. The open relationship, the dishonesty, the affair, each betrayal had brought them to this inevitable conclusion. Now, standing alone in the park, Victoria felt as though the ground beneath her had disappeared, leaving her adrift in an unfamiliar world. She had expected anger, maybe even an explosive confrontation, but what she hadn't foreseen was his complete and utter indifference. The warmth that had once filled Tyler's gaze had been replaced with a cool, unwavering certainty. She had convinced herself that if she found the right words, if she begged sincerely enough, she could salvage what remained. But Tyler was no longer listening. He had already let go. The following days blurred into a frantic storm of unanswered messages and ignored calls. Victoria pleaded for a chance to talk, to explain, to fix things. But for the first time since they had met, Tyler was unreachable. She no longer knew where he was or what he was doing, only that whatever fragile connection they had left had been reduced to dust. Tyler, however, had already found his closure. Sitting in the quiet of his new apartment, he turned inward, prioritizing his career, seeking therapy, and rediscovering himself. The betrayal that had once consumed him now felt distant, no longer a weight, but a lesson. He realized that his pain did not define him. His ability to move forward did. With a deep breath, he made the call to a divorce attorney. This was not about revenge. It was about reclaiming his life. He had always been a man who valued peace, but Victoria had taken that from him. Now, he was determined to take it back. The divorce proceeded swiftly, without drama or spectacle. Victoria made one last attempt to change his mind, but the moment had long passed. Tyler had already stepped into his future, leaving their marriage behind. Months later, Victoria stood among the ruins of her choices, fully realizing the depth of what she had lost. The one person who had loved her unconditionally was gone. She had chased an illusion of independence, believing it would bring fulfillment, only to find herself burdened by regret. The affair with her manager had brought nothing but humiliation, and the freedom she had longed for had left her feeling empty and isolated. Meanwhile, Tyler thrived. He traveled, discovered new interests, and built a life filled with purpose. Though the memory of her betrayal remained, it no longer held power over him. His liberation hadn't come from leaving Victoria, it had come from rediscovering himself. In the end, both had learned harsh but necessary truths. Victoria came to understand that freedom without responsibility could lead to devastation, while Tyler realized that true healing only comes from letting go of what no longer serves you. As the sun sank below the horizon, they each faced an uncertain future, walking separate paths that would never cross again. The past no longer bound them, and with that realization, a new chapter began. This story has come to an end. The story of Victoria and Tyler is a reminder that love built on trust can easily crumble under the weight of betrayal. Life gives us choices, to cherish those who stand by us or to chase the illusion of fleeting happiness. Victoria sought freedom but found emptiness, while Tyler, through pain, rediscovered himself. True strength lies not in holding on to what destroys us, but in the ability to let go and move forward. In the end, our fate is not defined by betrayal or mistakes, but by how we choose to respond. Choose wisely. Some paths offer no way back. What's your opinion? Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from, and I'll say goodbye to you until the next video. Goodbye.